The US dollar comes from debt. It's printed. I mean, it just basically doesn't exist. And people don't know what the US dollar is. You know, it's called the fractional reserve system. I put in a dollar's savings in the bank, and the bank can lend out 10. That's where dollars come from. It's on debt. There's a guy named Meyer Amschel Rothschild who said, "I care not who makes the rules, just let me control the money." You know, since I was a little kid at 9 years old studying money, well, I realized the only people that control money are governments, tyrants, and despots. And so that's the Federal Reserve Bank and the US Treasury. And one of the reasons I have gold and silver and Bitcoin is because I don't trust the government, I don't trust the Fed, I don't trust the Treasury. I was out there in Vancouver in the 80s and 90s, and it was just the best education I ever had. And
right on.
What makes me such a pessimist on Biden and the Treasury and the Fed is what I learned in Vancouver. And it was a really exciting time because gold, oil, and silver are real money. Not the dollar, not the loonie, not the Canadian dollar, not the peso, not the yuan, not the US dollar. Its resources are real money. In my opinion, resources are the next biggest investment. And if you really want to learn a lot in a very little time, but really hang out with some better than average guys like me who sit there, who have been gone through the ringer. We're going into a depression, possibly a depression. And so when our buddy Joe Biden took off the Keystone XL pipeline, inflation went through the roof. That wipes out the poor because they can't afford to eat. When Biden shut down the XL pipeline, I went, oh my God, that guy is a communist. Because when he shut down the pipeline, we knew inflation was going through the roof. When the price of oil goes up, fertilizer goes up. Fertilizer goes up, food goes up. What most people don't know is that in 1971 is that when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, so the dollar became debt. They could print it, and they had to raise taxes to collect the money back. And it's really interesting because being an entrepreneur, one of the first things my rich dad taught me, he says, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, the purpose of a business is to buy real estate. And the average person has never heard that. And I use debt and I pay no taxes. So you better learn about taxes because they'll never teach you that at school.
So I just know gold and silver are God's money. Crypto is people's money. If there's a crash, let's say it starts tonight, where will you be in 3 days? Relocated, in operation, business set up, still operating. That's all the time you got. When I was at military school in New York, I met this kid who was a Jewish kid. And he says, his parents left Germany because they knew what Hitler was doing. So he says, we moved to New York. He says this to me, he says, so my family moved to New York and we got rich. Their friends went to Auschwitz. I never forgot that. He says, they always hoped that Hitler would see the light. I don't mean just think about it in 3 days. You've got to be in position so that you can be in position, fully functional and operational in 3 days. So all these guys are arguing about gold, silver, and Bitcoin. I'm only saying, well, how much have you got?
And the way the dollar is set up, the dollar always loses money. It's called Triffin's dilemma. If you're the reserve currency of the world, the dollar always loses value because debt always goes up. So the Fed has to keep printing, the Treasury has to keep printing. And that's why if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which came out 25 years ago, it said the rich don't work for money, rich don't save money, because the dollar is fake. The US dollar is fake. All currencies are fake. So people talk about, well, this, the euro's getting stronger. To me, it's all bullshit. If you understand what's going on, the problem is the US dollar. Because in 1944, it stopped being money. It stopped It just became the reserve currency of the world. And in 71, Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard. And so when Kim and I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad 25 years ago today, we said savers or losers, your house is not an asset. We're being set up right now, one of the biggest changes in world history. Please understand, ladies and gentlemen, inflation makes the rich extremely rich. The middle class will pay higher taxes, and the poor will get poor because they're the ones who can't afford that $25 Wagyu steak that my friends are selling. I think I'm a pessimist, and everything the government touches turns to corruption. Most of these criminals are not elected officials. They're professional bureaucrats who stuff their frickin' pockets with our tax dollars. As my friends in Mexico say, ¿Qué pasa? What are you gonna do about it? What can the little guy do? And I would rather get smart. I would rather be smarter than the average guy. And what about all these guys in these 401ks? 401ks came into existence in 1974. It was called ERISA. And if this market crashes, when they raise these interest rates, if they do, just as you get ready to retire, all you old guys like me, hear what I'm saying? If they raise interest rates because they're going to stop inflation, your 401k may be toast. I'm not saying it's going to happen, or if you're a millennial and you got mom and dad who are living in La La Land with their two 401ks, you might be in serious trouble. You have no idea what it was like. Some of you were too young. So one day rice would be $1, next day it'd be $2. And they had to keep whiting stuff out. I'm going, holy mackerel. And then I put together, when I was flying in Vietnam, why my rich dad, who was Chinese, said, watch out, because they took the dollar off the gold standard. They're going to print money. And it's called money supply, not interest rates. We're in a recession already because things are slowing. The velocity of money is slowing at high rates of speed. But also, it's going to crash the economy, and we may be going into a depression.
Well, first of all, everybody can do something, but they won't. And that's the problem. The reason, who stole my pension, there was plenty of money in it, but nobody did anything. They just stole it. The people did nothing. It's like I said, when the crash came in 2008, not one of those guys went to jail. They got paid bonuses. So there's something rotten inside America. And I think the problem with many Americans is they're complacent. They expect, well, it'll heal itself again.